Hi, this is Kim Leppert with Flyleaf Counseling. Over the past couple of weeks, I've shared with you some information on triggers and on EMDR and your window of tolerance and memory and some of the ways that we work through processing trauma. Stephanie has given you some great information about mindfulness and grounding, and I hope that that's been helpful. But today I want to talk about brain spotting. Brain spotting is another body-based technique that we use, and it processes trauma. And it's based on the idea that where you look determines how you feel. Let me explain first how it got here, and then I'll explain what that means. So David Grand in 2003 was working with an ice skater who was having trouble landing a particular jump. She just couldn't get it. So she came in to see him for some EMDR to work around just some of the anxiety she was having and some performance enhancement stuff. So while they were doing the EMDR and doing the bilaterals, what he noticed was that in a particular point of her vision, her eyes would dilate or she would breathe differently. Some kind of shift would change, a physiological shift would happen. And so he had her stop on that spot and continue processing and thinking about the anxiety. And what happened is her body got real activated and then it came really back down. And she left the office feeling pretty calm, said she wasn't worried, didn't feel anxious anymore. And then the next day gave him a call and said, hey, I have landed that jump over and over and over again. I don't have any problems with it at all. And so out of curiosity, he started doing that more and more with clients. So it's kind of a cousin of EMDR, and it's based on the belief that where you look determines how you feel. And it's not always where you look, though. It's really kind of where your eyes rest determines how you feel. And let me further explain. So what you have is this part of your brain, this yellow part goes all the way through your brain, and you can access anywhere from 50 to 60% of your brain through your vision. So this yellow part is the ocular part of your brain. And so your eyes actually see 360 degrees. So if you've ever said, I have a thought in the back of my head, or I can see it in the back of my mind, you probably can, because your eyes can access your brain all the way around. And if you've ever witnessed somebody telling a really hard story or trying to recall a memory, they look at you because socially they're supposed to, but really what they're doing is they're looking over here and they're telling you this hard story and they come back and look at you. And then they look back over here and then they come back and look at you. And it's because their eyes are accessing information in their brain that's really hard for them. So we use that concept to process trauma. We know that trauma lives in your body. It lives in the back of your mind. It lives in the subcortical part of your mind. The front part of your brain is your neocortex. That's the thinking part of your brain. These two parts of your brain do not function simultaneously. The subcortical part of your brain is where your unconscious memory is. That part is where your fight or flight, your survival, those kinds of things, they live back there. Your prefrontal is your reasoning and thinking, and you're making sense out of the world, and they just don't function together. So if you've ever seen somebody having a panic attack and you try to talk to them, what you end up with is just a bunch of, I can't manage myself. And what is the first thing we tell them is calm down, take some deep breaths, sit down. And the first thing our instinct tells us is to regulate their body. Well, when we regulate their body, we've also regulated their mind, because all of a sudden, when they get back into their body, they can talk to you and they can share whatever it is that they're experiencing with you. And then they can bring in information and make sense about it. So keeping in mind that those two things can't function at the same time, if we're doing therapy and we're doing body-based therapy, which means we're regulating our body, we have to turn this off in order to access this information. And when we're accessing this information, we're feeling a lot, but we're not trying to make sense out of it yet, not until our body calms down. So if you've ever had the experience of gazing off and all of a sudden you don't know why, you just gaze off and your body starts to get activated and you're having a really hard memory you didn't really choose to think about, it's just coming up. The way that we shut that down is to shake our head and go, nope, I got to get back to work. I don't have time to think about that. And you start going again. And as soon as you break your eye contact with wherever that spot is, your body just starts to calm down. Conversely, if you've ever stared off into space and zoned out and felt great, like, oh, this is just the best thing in the world. And you're thinking about either nothing or you're thinking about some kind of a memory that's a really happy memory and you feel good. You're, again, accessing information by turning off your prefrontal and accessing the back of your brain. This is not new science. It's new science because we can prove it with neural scans, but the concept isn't new. If you've ever tried to meditate, that's what you're trying to do. is turn off the garbage and the talk in the front of your brain and access the back of your mind and relax into your body. If you've ever tried to do that, what you'll hear people say is, if you can do this for 5 minutes, well, great, good for you, because it's hard to do. You can't turn off that prefrontal. And what we have found through brain spotting is that it's almost an instantaneous thing with brain spotting. And we can hold that thought. We can hold that turn off here and keep on here. We can hold that for 45 minutes. We can hold it for an hour while our body is working out all of that old stuff. We know trauma lives in the body. We know old memories live in the back of our mind, and we let those two things work all of that stuff out. And once it works it out and our body's calm, our brain doesn't have to think. It just is already, the body's already done the work. So the trauma's already gone. And we end up feeling kind of like, if you have a really hard thing that happens and you go to sleep and you wake up in the morning and all of a sudden it's, nah, oh well, why didn't I just solve it that way? Or you just kind of have this, it's not an epiphany, it's just a, it doesn't matter, why was I holding on to it kind of feeling. And it's an actual beautiful thing. It's not easy and it's hard to do. We shut that stuff down while we're out just gazing off into space because it stinks, it's hard. And so the job of the therapist is to sit with you and use our physical space and the trust that we have with each other to regulate you and walk you through that really hard thing so that you can stay in that space and heal. I hope that this was helpful for you. Let me add this on here. Mindfulness works for the same reason. What mindfulness does when you're starting to get spiraled out in your prefrontal is turn on the back of your mind, turn off the front of your mind, and ground your body. It's an easy, quick way. That's why it works. That's why we can't talk ourselves out of panic, but we can feel our way through panic. And so we can teach you how to do those things. There's a lot of different regulation techniques that you can learn. And again, Stephanie's kind of told you some of those through her stuff, which is really helpful. If you have any questions or you have any thoughts and you need more information, you can go to brainspotting.com. They have a lot of beautiful things there. You can see David Grand talk about his stuff there too. You can contact us at info@flyleafcounseling.com. You can go to our website, flyleafcounseling.com, or check out our Facebook page, Flyleaf Counseling. And it was really good to share this with you, and I hope you're having a great day. And don't forget to always be kind to yourself and give yourself a break, and give others a break too, and give them some grace. This is a hard time. So thanks again. Bye.